Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. I went ahead and I made a little Arduino cheat sheet. We've been going through a lot of different code. We've been going through it fairly quickly, and some of this is very, very new to many of you, most of you actually. So I just want to kind of try and make things as simple as possible. You guys are doing well. Coding is hard. You miss one little thing, one little curly bracket, one little semicolon, and the whole program doesn't work. And I get that. So I went ahead and I made a little cheat sheet for you. Hopefully that will help. This is basically just the different things that we have been looking at. I'll post this video and I will post the cheat sheet that you can go to at any time. All right, so basically, if you can see here, the Arduino cheat sheet right here, all Arduino programs, you can see from the sketch down here, okay, all of them have two things. They have void setup and then curly brackets, okay? I should have pointed out the curly brackets more clearly. Curly bracket here, curly bracket here. Anything you put in there under void setup will run only one time, okay? Then you got void loop. Curly bracket here, it's always inside the curly brackets. Any code you put in there will just loop over and over and over. So that's one of the first things that we saw. One quick little thing, you'll see it later on in some of the programs, is you can make variables even before that. So you could do like int Bob, make a variable called Bob or something like that equals 700 semicolon, okay? You can put a global variable. You can put a variable even before void setup, all right? All right, so let's get rid of that. No, don't save that little guy. All right, cool. So that's that guy. Then we went into Blink, and let me pull Blink up to the front here, okay? Few new things that we learned in Blink, okay? Void setup, we learned pin mode, okay? Pin mode is basically just a command. It will make a port, make a pin, and it will make it either output or input, okay? So void setup, curly brackets, pin mode, parentheses, LED built-in, which we did learn that's the same thing as pin 13. And just to make life easy, I like doing pin 13, okay? Comma, and then is it input or is it output, okay? Keep in mind, all capital letters, all right? And parentheses, semicolon, and then we got the end curly brackets right there. So in Blink, we learned about pin mode, all right? And then we also learned, you know, if you're using a light and you don't make it output, it'll still work. It'll just be dimmer, okay? And then down here, void loop, got your curly brackets right here to start and stop. So it's just going to repeat whatever is inside of the curly brackets right here. You got digital write, okay? Once again, take a look at the syntax, how they did it. Now it's a command, so it's orange. When you type it, it should turn orange. Digital, lowercase. The W for write is uppercase. Coders, when they squish words together, they capitalize the second word just so you know it, okay? And maybe it's my OCD talking, but I'm going to change that to 13, and this one as well. I would rather have it. Oops. Rather not get rid of the parenthesis. That's one other thing that's just super important when you're getting rid of stuff, you know? If you get rid of that parenthesis, the program's not going to work anymore. So digital write 13 low. What does that do? That's going to turn the light off. Digital write 13 high. That's going to turn the LED, the light on. Okay? You could if you wanted to, because digital is ones and zeros. It would still work if instead of high, you put a 1 here, and instead of low, you put a 0. That would work as well. I like using high and low, but that works as well. Okay? Taking a look here, is there anything that I missed? Nope. Just keep in mind those curly brackets. I don't think I paid enough attention in class to the curly brackets. All right? Don't save the changes. All right. Fade. Fade is the next one that we went into, the next program that we went into, the next little thing on the cheat sheet. And once again, we can see in here, we created, or they created really, some variables before we even went into the void setup. Okay. Now I'm going to say a side little note right here. Every programmer that I know, all of them always, they really didn't learn by just starting to write code. They learned by taking code and modifying it. And I expect you guys to do the same thing, you know. If later on you need an if-else statement, my suggestion would be go open up a program like I believe Digital Input Pullup, the button one that we did, and take a look at the if-else statement and just copy and paste that right into yours, and then start changing the variables and changing, you know, greater than, equal to signs just to make it be what you want it to be. But just to make sure you have the minimal number of typos possible, copy and paste. It's really, really helpful. All right, so we got fade going on here. Int, this is our first variable, I want to say. Int LED equals 9. Now, int just means it's an integer variable. It's expecting a 1 or a 9 or a 5, a whole number. It's not expecting any decimals or anything like that. LED in this case, that is just a variable. You know, you could have called it Bob, called it light, whatever you want, but that's just a variable, and they assigned it to be 9. So now as we go through the program, anytime we see LED, it's going to be 9. The program will just put 9 in for it, okay? Int brightness equals 0. All right, and we'll see as we go, we're going to see that is going to change. That variable ends up changing, okay? Int, integer, variable, fade amount equals 5. That one switches, we'll see it in a little bit, okay? Pin mode, we already know pin mode, we learned that already, okay? Now this one is a new command right here, analog write, okay? Digital, ones and zeros. Analog is, usually it's a number, analog is a number between 0 and 1023. But in this case, we're doing brightness, okay? And so the brightness that we're doing for an LED, 0 is off, and the highest you can get is 255. Full brightness is 255. So analog write, LED, now we made LED is 9, so analog write pin 9, and it'll say a brightness, whatever the brightness is. Well, the first time we run through, it's going to be 0. Okay? Next, the program's going to do just a little math. Okay? Computers compute. It's what they do. It just took brightness, which was 0, equals brightness, which was 0, plus fade amount, which is 5. Okay? And so now the brightness is 5. All right. So when it runs through again, the brightness will be 5. And then if it adds 5 again and it runs through again, it'll be 10. And it'll keep going that way. This way it would just keep getting brighter and brighter and brighter. And then you'd quickly overwhelm the program. It won't work anymore. So that's what this line here is for. This is our first if statement. If statements are really, really useful. They can be a little confusing, can be a little tough, but it's really, really useful, okay? So if, and then in the parentheses, you have a condition. And this whole thing in this case is a condition, okay? Let's take it very easy, take it step by step. If brightness is less than or equal to 0, or if, those two vertical lines right there, those are read as or if brightness is greater than or equal to 255, okay? So basically, if it's 0, it's going to do something, or if it's 255, it's going to do something. Now notice you have the if, then you have the condition, and then you have these curly brackets. If I type on this, it highlights that curly bracket here. Okay, let me scroll it so it doesn't go any further. If I go up here, this curly bracket, void loop, curly bracket around the whole thing. If I go to this curly bracket, it does this guy and this guy. Okay, so if brightness is less than or equal to 0, or if brightness is greater than or equal to 255, if either of those are true, it's going to do what's inside these curly brackets, which just takes the fade amount and makes it the negative fade amount. So it's going to take this fade amount, which was 5, and make it negative 5. That's going to change the brightness. It's going to go, 0, 5, 10, all the way up to 255. And then once that 255 is going to change the fade amount to be negative, so it's going to go 255, 250, 245, right on there. And that's where we get our fade going on. Okay? And then down here, delay. I don't think I've talked about delay. It did come up in blink. I didn't mention it. But delay of 30 milliseconds. That's just how long, give it a pause for the LED to show for a while. If you don't have this delay, it'll rip through these lines of code so incredibly fast that you won't even be able to see a change really. You won't be able to really notice anything. So you need a delay for it to show for 30 milliseconds before it runs through the loop again and changes the brightness and does its thing right there. Okay, so that is fade. I'm going to cut this video off right here, and we're going to start with our digital input pull up next. Okay, thank you. Hopefully this little review of what we've done so far is helping.